It is partly Putin. Obviously, we've also got Georgia Republican Congressman Buddy Carter. What do you attribute it to, Congresswoman? Would you say how much of it is Putin? How much of it is just supply chain issues after reopening from the pandemic and all the stimulus from the last couple of years sloshing around? That's part of it, I think, too.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here with my good friend from Georgia. Just let me say that I want to remind people that the problems we were having with inflation are global. And I also want to talk about the fact that we're not out of the pandemic. The pandemic has had an impact on everyone in the world. As a matter of fact, as we speak, Shanghai is shut down. Philadelphia is reimposing mask mandates. I haven't taken my mask off, quite frankly, as I see cases rise. And so I think that we have to acknowledge, while people want to blame it on Biden, they want to blame it all on Putin, that there are numbers of factors. And the thing that I sort of resent the most is the implication that somehow rescuing people from the misery index during the heyday of the pandemic, saving people from eviction, saving the restaurant industry, and providing unemployment checks to people somehow was the major driver of inflation. This is a global phenomenon, and it's hitting everyone in the world. With regard to gas prices, certainly, this war in Europe and in Ukraine we have not seen the full impact of that. I think gas prices may indeed rise more. And again, that's a global phenomenon. And then
Okay. Congressman Carter, all good points. It is global. The entire globe had to deal with the pandemic and the supply chain issues that came from the pandemic. The entire world is dealing with the invasion of Ukraine as well. What specifically do you think the Biden administration needs to be held accountable for with this, and what can we do in this country to try to alleviate the pain that we're feeling here?
Well, first of all, we can do all we can, or you can try as you may to deflect the blame on other people. But the truth is that this is a result of the policies of the Biden administration. You know, I'm a healthcare professional. The number one thing we do is we subscribe to the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. What we need to do right now, we need to stop spending. There's too much money out in the economy right now, too much government money. When the government spends more, you get less. That's what happens to the economy, and that's what we're witnessing right now. We also need to stop the pause on student loans. We also need to encourage investment in our private innovation with our private companies. That needs to happen. And most of all, we need to work together, Republicans and Democrats, to balance our budget. That's why I've introduced the PAID Act. The PAID Act is paying America's inflationary debt. We need to take the billions of dollars in unspent funds in the American Rescue Plan and put them toward retiring our debt.
Congresswoman, there is a little bit of truth to that. You point out Philadelphia is putting the mask mandate back on, so we're not totally out of this. But then we do hear time and time again from business people about how strong the economy is right now. And if it is strong and there's a lot of demand, it doesn't make a lot of sense to keep flooding it with more stimulus. Do you think we should be doing pieces of Build Back Better and raising taxes on sectors that are already compromised by higher prices?
Well, let me say this to Representative Carter, who is a healthcare professional. You know, one of the ways that we can help people deal with inflation is to reduce their healthcare costs. We passed a bill just recently that would have insulin maximum cost be $35 a month. You know, some people pay $400 or $500 a month for insulin, which is life-saving. I mean, that's part of the plan. Forgive me for this. That's part of the so-called Build Back Better plan that we were trying to initiate. I think that, you know, that dog really don't hunt. that somehow the stimulus is the sole cause of our having these inflationary prices. But I think it's important to have that as an excuse if you're in Georgia or if you're in Wisconsin, and you have to explain to your constituents why you didn't help them when they had maxed out their credit cards trying to get through not just the Delta COVID, but this recent Omicron outbreak in February, that you didn't help restaurant workers get back on their feet. I think this dog really don't hunt when you look at the supply chain problems, which in fact were global. I will agree that we can buoy our economy by looking at more production of things like semiconductors so that we're not depending having another breakdown in the supply chain. With regard to energy costs, I feel it. And my constituents complain about the cost of gas. They complain about the cost of food going up. But I want to remind people, that Ukraine is called the breadbasket of Europe. And 85% of the wheat in Egypt is from Ukraine. So I think that while we see higher inflation costs in this country and around the world, we have got to look at this in a global way. And I do think that President Biden and this administration, they're doing everything that they can to stem this cost. Recently, he had a call for ethanol, more ethanol gas, releasing gas from the strategic oil reserve. We're working on it. And I think that,
thank you. I want to check your voicemail. I hope it's not really serious. And Congressman Carter, you are a pharmacy guy. I mean, whose problem? Well, we don't have time to get into it. Let's have you both back on and continue this conversation. Thank you both, Congressman Carter.